themselves even more depth offensively and more options. And Florida looking to kind of get back to form with their hitting. And Allison, you know this as a former player at UCF. You saw the Gators plenty of times, especially when they were on the rise as a program in the late 2000s, that this team has had years where they were just impossible to pitch against. And in recent years, they've leaned on their pitching and defense has been their identity, but they want to get back to that style of being able to run up the score on you and knock things out of the park and have those big swings and that good pitching and defense.
Yeah, UF, I remember when I faced them, they were a scary team to face. I knew I couldn't make any type of mistake. I needed to get ahead early and pitch out of the zone.
Florida in search of their first trip to Oklahoma City this season since 2019. They've been a regular face in OKC over the last decade or so. Won a couple of national championships in 2014 and 2015. They've only missed OKC 3 times in recent history. One of those was against South Florida. Frozen rope past Piero at second. Gets Gels aboard for the first time today. So a sac fly in the second for Gels, and in the third knocks the single through the right side with 2 gone.
Just a great piece of hitting inside part of the plate and just takes barrel to bat and follows the pitch and drives it to the outfield.
Now batting number 27.
That'll bring up Kendra Falby, another freshman in this very talented class that Florida has brought in. Runs through the box, tries to slap it, instead fouls it to the backstop. And with 2 outs, a runner on first, and the speed that Falby has, where are you looking to place this?
Anywhere on the ground to get the runner moving. Anything on the ground she can beat out.
Falby will bloop it into left field, and that finds the gap. Back-to-back singles for the Gators. Turns the order over to Adams. You know, we talk a lot about Falby's speed, but she's had a home run this weekend. She can hit the ball pretty good, too.
She's a triple threat. She can hit, run, field. Anything on the ground she can beat out. And just because she's last in the lineup doesn't mean she's a terrible hitter. She's probably one of their, their hidden gems that she's going to get it done.
Well, Cheyenne Lindsay, who's a great hitter and has great speed, was in that spot a lot last season for Florida. And we just talked about how that added depth can help a team. That allows Coach Walton to put Cheyenne Lindsay in the middle of the lineup and bring some extra juice all the way through the order when you have a player like Kendra Falby, who's as efficient as she's been so far this weekend.
Yeah, there's just, as a pitcher, you can never lay off because once you finish number 9, you're back to the top of the lineup.
Adams flares one into foul ground, third base side. It's brought in by Maldonado, and that will retire the side. So the Gators threaten, but doesn't bloom anything with 2 outs. They state, and a lot of great contenders, so much talent around the country this season. Of course, Oklahoma is the overwhelming favorite, and deservedly so with everything they're bringing back. And anywhere Montana Fouts is, you feel like that team's got a pretty good chance. And just, there's so much talent across the country this season, especially with all the players that have come back for 5th seasons. And some of them on this Florida roster as well. Hightower will get it started here. And first pitch is swinging from Hanlon. 8-9-1 due up for South Florida. But back to that point, Allison, when you look at the field and you look at the top 10, who are some of the teams you like?
I mean, there's just greatness after greatness. I really can't pick a top team because anybody can get upset at one point in the season. Florida thinks they could have it, but then they get upset. Oklahoma, yes, they're ranked number 1, but they could get upset too. It's not likely, but
put some heat right back to the originator. Hightower gathers it off the shin, grin across her face as she gets it to first for the out. It's a bit of an underrated skill as a pitcher, right? Being able to field and make those kind of plays.
And that was hit back pretty hard to her, too.
Yeah, that was screaming right back at the shin.
Because you're trying to finish your motion and get into the fielding position. So for her to grab that as quickly as she did was a very good play as a pitcher.
9-hole hitter Des Maldonado is up. First pitch aggressive. You feel like there's been an adjustment at the plate for South Florida since that first inning or so, where they've been coming out first pitch swinging way more here down the stretch of the lineup.
They've got to hit early against her. Once Hightower gets ahead of these USF hitters, it's her game at that point. She's going to make you chase, and she's going to throw the pitch that she wants to throw. Whereas if you attack early, you swing at your pitch as a hitter. But when you fall behind, it's all up to the pitcher. What she can play whatever she wants at that point. She can throw a changeup, drop ball up in the zone, way out of the plate.
You know, we're talking about some of the best teams across the country. How about just the SEC period? I mean, this is a conference that routinely sends all its members to the NCAA tournament, or at least 12 of the 13 that play the sport of softball.
Oh, SEC is always a tough conference to play in.
And you and I were talking about this after the game yesterday of how much the sport has shifted over the years. I mean, of course, anybody who's followed this game for a long time will tell you it used to be all Pac, now 12, then back 10 all the time, until, you know, eventually Michigan won the national title in 2005, and that sort of rewrote the script a little bit. And then Florida and Alabama, yep.
Now you always have the SEC in there. I mean, just talent just all across the state.
I mean, the SEC is no doubt the hardest conference in the country, just on depth alone. The Pac-12 as well. Here's the payoff to Maldonado. Gets under it pretty good. It's into foul ground. Falvey will bring it in. And there's two down. And then on the flip side, you look at the American Conference, and it's really the three contenders at the top that draw your eyes the most: Wichita State, USF, and UCF. We touched on this yesterday, that all of those teams were competitive in the postseason. We're pushing teams that were either playing in the Women's College World Series finals. In the case of Oklahoma and Florida State, they saw Wichita State and UCF respectively, and it wasn't easy for them. And USF pushed this Florida team in their regional, and that is pushed right to. We welcome you back to Tampa, Florida. We have a new pitcher in for South Florida. This is a jersey we have not seen before, and that's because it's Antoinette Hill wearing a new number. She normally wears number 15, but she's changed into the number 17 jersey. So this is the Purdue transfer getting some innings for South Florida. It is another new pitcher for the Bulls. We have now seen 4 out of the pen for South Florida. Skylar Wallace leading off, 2, 3, and 4 scheduled for the Gators. Antoinette Hill, redshirt freshman. Coach Erickson compared her to Vivian Pond in terms of her style. She's a drop ball pitcher, and said that she thinks she's going to surprise a lot of people.
Erickson's just throwing all of his pitchers to keep these UF hitters off balance, and it's a good tool to see, you know, who can step up in this moment, who's going to come out and throw strikes, who can come in relief. He wants to see what his pitching staff can do.
And pokes through the left side. Wallace, with her second hit so far today, will reach for the third time. Had a run-scoring walk last time up, and Wallace has been efficient today. 2 for 2, and has reached in all 3 appearances. And Charlotte Eccles got her first hit of the season last time up with that 2-run double. And she represents what would be the 8th run of the day for Florida. If the Gators can plate 2 more, it would put them in run-rule territory. Wallace is going to go from first. The throw is not in time to Alana Rivera. Second stolen base of the day for Florida, and Skylar Wallace is third on the season. She's a perfect 3 for 3. Eccles now with a runner in scoring position. And Antoinette Hill, very careful not to leave anything hanging against number 4. You do have a place to put her. Then you got Reagan Walsh right behind her. This is the tough part of the lineup to take on if you're USF.
Yeah, not an ideal situation to be in with a runner on second and Eccles up.
Eccles pops it up into left field, and that carries all the way back and will be the first out of the inning as Hanlon brings it in with the squeeze.
Now batting for the Gators, number 15, Reagan Walsh.
Reagan Walsh will step up. Florida still a prime opportunity to score. Antoinette Hill, Ken Erickson said that she has a limitless ceiling as a pitcher. Was part of 2 big transfers for South Florida. Wallace in her first season after transferring from Alabama. And the transfer portal has changed everything about college athletics of how it used to be 10, 20 years ago, and that now all of a sudden there's so much more movement between teams. I mean, in this case, South Florida basically got the ace from East Carolina, and Florida got one of the best infielders from Alabama.
And it's a great opportunity for all these players to be able to play at a new school. Maybe they didn't like where they were before, and now they're playing at a new school, and maybe they bond a little bit better with those players. So it gives a better opportunity for these players since it's only 4 years that they get of eligibility that they have.
2-1. And combine that with the additional year of eligibility because of COVID-19, and roster management has been a huge challenge across this sport and that's across all sports really, because it makes it so much tougher to really truly know what you have, because you can't be certain what's going to be on your roster the next year with transfers and what you need to bring in terms of recruiting. That'll certainly be a challenge to work through over the next couple of years in college athletics.
But it's exciting when you have these great players come back for their 5th year because of that COVID year. I just remembered if I had one more year to play, the maturity level that I would have, the dominance I would have. So it's great that they're allowing, the NCAA is allowing this and giving the girls the extra opportunity.
Walsh off the end of the bat, rolls it to second. They'll take the easy out at first, and Skylar Wallace is on the doorstep for Florida. And you touched on that maturity in, Coach Hutchins at Michigan. We were talking to her earlier this week, and she said that the same reason they love having those 5th-year players is the same reason that football loves having them, and it's that maturity factor. You just hit a point at 22, 23 years old where you have all that wealth of experience, and it's, you deal with the pressure much better, and you've been in all of these situations. You've seen it all. And like you said, being able to come back and apply that knowledge and pass it on to younger players is very valuable.
Yeah, and as a senior, things just start to click a little bit more once you're in the sport a little bit longer.
There's Georgina Cork, one of those 5th-year players. Says she wants to pass on the standard that has been set at South Florida during her time there. 1-1. Longley fouls it off. Pulls 1 strike away from getting out of the inning. Something funny Coach Erickson said about Georgina Cork, you can kind of see in the background there, was that if he stays in the business world, that he's going to be working for Georgina Cork one day.
I think we're all going to be working for Georgina Cork. The dominance that she just displays and the presence that she brings to the mound.
And when you talk to her, I mean, the polish that she speaks with and the maturity that she has, I mean, it's incredible. Has it all put together here in year number 5 for South Florida. Still looking for that one trip to Oklahoma City. Tries to drop it in. Hill can't hit this spot, and the count's full.
As long as there can step up another strong, solid number 2 to help Cork out on the mound, USF with the bats, they haven't showed it today, but in previous games, they have a good opportunity to make it.
Longley trampolines it off home plate.
They just have to find depth in that pitching staff, somebody that can come in, relieve Cork, or pitch games and go the distance. Because as you've seen in the past, Cork will pitch 1 game and then she comes in relief in game number 2 of the 3-game series.
Ball forward. Longley's aboard for the Gators with 2 gone. Runners on the corner. Cheyenne Lindsay will come to the plate. And as a pitcher, when you have to shoulder that much of the load, where maybe you start through a complete game on Friday, come in relief Saturday, and then have to start again Sunday, That's a lot of wear and tear on your shoulder, and fatigue and conditioning are paramount when you're in those situations.
There's definitely a lot of fatigue, but I know the type of player Cork is, how she presents herself on the mound. She's a competitor. She wants to be out there. Even though if there was a number 2, she'd still want to go out in the field and pitch. That's just who she is. She wants to take the game. She always wants to have the ball. That's why she's so great at this sport.
One of the greatest to ever do it in the conference, became the all-time strikeout leader yesterday. Bulls could use one of those strikeouts here. They have not had a K today against the Gators. There's a pinch runner at first. That's Katie Kistler, who has checked in, was threatening to first, and Cheyenne Lindsay. Facing 0-1. Now for Florida, over the first few days, offense was not easy to come by. 3 runs against Illinois State on the opening night. Took a while to wake up against Kansas City. And Kistler will go to second. Gators pulling the double steal as Wallace races home. Kistler's in a rundown. Evading back to first. Going to dive for the bag, and she's out. So they eventually do chase down Kistler. And that will retire this side. And we go. Bottom 4, Gators tag on a run in the away half on was a bit of a wonky play here, Allison.
Yes, it was. She throws the ball down, hoping to get her to catch stealing, and then they, throw the ball back and forth, and finally were able to tag her out at first.
Hey, credit to Kistler, almost got back into the bag. Meanwhile, while that's going on, Wallace scores backside before the tag, so the Gators get the run, and they are up by a touchdown. Going to the 4th. Megan Sheehan will lead things off for South Florida. 2, 3, and 4 are scheduled. Went down in order last time up. And this has been a quality performance today all around for Florida. Gator fans got to be happy, as well as the staff and players, with how this one has gone so far to this point. An explosive second inning for Florida has been the biggest difference. They scored 6 runs in the top of the second.
Yeah, and that's just a heads-up play with Wallace on third. She sees the ball go down to second. She doesn't hesitate and takes off straight for home. It's a great job, heads-up play. They wouldn't have gotten her if they tried to cut the ball off at second.
Emily Wilkie has checked in at catcher, number 18 there for Florida. So if you're scoring along with us, go ahead and make the switch in your book. And some familiarity between her and Hightower from last season, as Sheehan takes strike 1. Well, if the Bulls are going to break up the shutout, Allison, what do they got to do here in this inning and try to just at least keep this within a margin that will allow Florida to put it into run rule territory?
They need to string hits together, strike early. You saw they started doing that last inning. They started swinging at Hightower's first pitches, putting the ball in play. They need to limit the fly balls, put the ball on the ground. They do have some speed with Piero and Johns, but they need to utilize the ball on the ground.
That'll move it 2-2. So 2-2 here on Megan Sheehan, one of the team's best hitters. Reaches for it, stays alive at the plate. There's a bit of a balance here, right, Allison, where you want to swing big and get a spark, but you don't want to be overly aggressive and chase something, either a rise or something off the plate you shouldn't swing at. The 2-2. And that would have been one of those way off the plate ones. It's now full.
That's why she's such a great pitcher. She's going to throw things out of the zone to get hitters to chase her pitches. That's why she has so many strikeouts. Once she gets ahead, she's just going to dominate that strike zone and make you chase.
Payoff. just over the glove of Walsh. It's short, and Sheehan has South Florida's first hit of the day. So that breaks up the potential no-hitter for Elizabeth Hightower. Was just about to say it was about pretty good first 3 innings for Hightower.
Just does a great job battling, sees the ball on the outside part of the plate and hits it. Doesn't try to do anything fancy, is not swinging for the fence. At this point, USF needs runners to get on base so they can make their way through the lineup. Now you have Foreman up to the plate. He's had a big hit yesterday with Michigan. So you're looking for them just to start to connect hits together.
Jordan Cadlub will pinch run at first base for USF. And Alana Rivera is up to bat. And if South Florida is going to get the party started with the hitters, this is a pretty good part of the order to do it with.
Alana Rivera.
With Alana Rivera up, Josie Foreman on deck, and Epperson in the hole. Aggressive on the first pitch. Out to the heavens up against the wall. And that'll be the first out of the inning. Cadlub retreats to first. Put some pretty good juice into the ball, not enough to do anything with it. Josie Foreman got a pretty good jump of the ball yesterday against Michigan. Today has reached once on a walk. Was the first bull to reach in this game.
Josie Foreman.
USF next week will have the St. Pete Clearwater Elite Invitational. Great competition out there next week. That feels like that's truly like a who's who of softball out there every year in that event.
Just great competition that always, heads out to that tournament. Michigan, we'll see there again.
South Florida will face Notre Dame, the number 4 Cowgirls. Auburn, Wisconsin, and St. John's. And that is one of the best out-of-conference tournaments you'll find around the country this season. Drop third strike. They'll go for the lead runner, and it's offline from Emily Wilkie. And all of a sudden, the Bulls have a little 2-out magic, 2 aboard. Excuse me, just 1 second.
Number 9, Maddie Epperson.
So the drop third strike there will only leave one runner at second for South Florida. Allison, can you explain why?
There is already Cadlub on first, so once the ball drops, with the first base already being occupied, she's automatically out. Now, if there was 2 outs and first base was occupied, she would have been safe because they didn't get the runner at second, and because there was 2 outs, the runner would have been safe at first also. So Foreman would have been safe had there been 2 outs.
It's low and in for ball 1, or ball 2, excuse me. But it's still a runner in scoring position for South Florida regardless.
That's why you saw Wilkie throw straight down to second and didn't worry about getting the runner out at first, because that was the opportunity to get the 3rd out, not Foreman.
So it'll be Hightower's 3rd strikeout of the day. And now it counts even at 2-2. This is the best opportunity South Florida's had to get a run all day. And Hightower gets back-to-back strikeouts to snuff out any hope for USF. Going to the 5th, Gators in control, 7-2. In by Megan Sheehan for the first out. So the Gators a big second frame, and they've been locked down on the other side. South Florida just broke up a no-hitter from Elizabeth Hightower going into the 4th with a leadoff single.
Now batting for the Gators.
And we'll have the first AB from Emily Wilkie today. She's hitting in place of Sam Rowe, where she switched in at catcher. One more run would put Florida into run rule territory. If they plate one more, the bottom of the 5th would be the last chance for South Florida. And, you know, regardless of what happens today, both teams can take away some pretty big positives from the weekend. For South Florida, they put up a lot of runs in their first 2 games and then were able to beat a top 15 team. The Gators, of course, if this holds, would go to 4-0 in their season with a ranked win already underneath their belt and a win against a team that was receiving votes in the ESPN poll as that was just foul down the left field line.
USF hitters have really stepped up and run. It doesn't show today in the run production, but in their prior games this weekend, they've really stepped up to the plate and has had a bunch of hits that they've strung together. Whereas Florida's always dominant in the circle and at bat. They capitalize on any extra or any freebies that you give them.
Ball 3.
And that's what these UF hitters do so well. They're so selective. All these pitchers all these hitters are watching each pitch perfectly until they get the one that they want. They're going to full counts, 3-1, 3-0.
Wilkie bashes it to short from the knees, not in time at first. And Wilkie's first at-bat yields a single for the Gators. That'll bring up Avery Gels for the Gators, and this was smoked on the left side of the infield by Emily Wilkie.
She just does a great job defensively, just trying to stop the ball from going to the outfield.
Now batting number 7.
I mean, that was a hard hit ball, and she was able to stop it.
Gardner finds the zone on the first toss to Gels. Gels also had the sac fly. That was Florida's first run of the day. Maddie Gardner all the way from Wisconsin for South Florida, the sophomore. Recorded her first career win last year against Florida Atlantic. That was in February. Also saw the Gators on opening weekend last year. Pitched an inning in 2/3, gave up 3 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, and had 1 strikeout against Florida. Facing the bottom of the order here.
And this is getting dangerous with Gardner getting behind in counts. They're just going to start capitalizing on hits and scoring more runs because Florida's just so good offensively. And this is what got them into trouble, the pitching staff at USF. This is what got them into trouble in the second inning, allowing the free bases. She's now 3-1 behind on this hitter.
Line drive to third, strong enough to knock Maldonado down, but she gets the second out. You know, if you hit the ball hard enough to line out somebody so hard it knocks down the third baseman, I'd say that's pretty good power. That's also pretty strong grip by Maldonado.
That's why they call it the hot corner, and you see why she wears that face mask, because these balls come off the bat so fast and so hard. It knocks you down. I don't care how strong you are. If it's hit hard enough, it's going to knock you down.
Falby slaps it back to Maldonado, a little low to first, but that's well in time. So Gardner and the Bulls face 1 above 20 against Georgia State. The former 2020 Softball America Freshman Pitcher of the Year, now a junior for the Gators, will come in for the 5th inning of work. And a lefty pitcher here for the Gators as they get set to face 6, 7, and 8 in the South Florida order.
Trilicek is just going to pick right up where Hightower left off, showing her presence in the mound, being dominant in the circle, getting ahead of the hitters.
Elizabeth Hightower will finish her day with 4 complete innings of work. Had a pretty good day. Nearly was on track for a no-hitter till that single in the 4th inning. Didn't give up any runs, 4 strikeouts, had a walk. Gators have their fair share of All-Americans. Hightower is one of them. And Adams and Charlotte Eccles, also plenty of praise for them a season ago.
Now batting for the Bulls, number 26,
Megan Piero leads things off for South Florida. Popped up to second her last time up. For USF, this is still only the 2nd time through the order. Florida pitching has been dominant today.
Florida pitching has been dominant all weekend. Coming into today's game, they've only given up 1 earned run in 21 innings.
Really, you could say that just generally about this program under Tim Walton. I mean, he's always anchored this team on their pitching and defense, and it's one of the reasons that they're one of the regular faces in Oklahoma City is when you can pitch well and play defense, you're going to be in most of the ball games you play.
Defense wins championships is what they say. If your defense isn't there to back your pitchers up, you're not going to win a whole lot of ball games, no matter who you have out on the mound.
Trilicek finished last season, or excuse me, I should say 2020, her freshman season, with a 1.99 ERA. Was used sparingly last season as Katie Chronister was sort of that relief lefty that Florida leaned on last year. And she has the opportunity this year to sort of retake that role that Chronister was filling last year as a closer for Florida. And you need that on a staff, someone who can come in as that lefty and give a different look and make that tough on hitters and down the stretch of ball games, especially when it's close and you need a closer when you got a pitcher who maybe is up to 100 pitches or is starting to get to the end of where you want that count. One hopped right back to number 44. Underhand toss to Gels, now playing at first. And that is the opening out of the inning. Take a look at those aforementioned All-Americans for the Gators from last season. They have a wealth of talent. Hannah Adams, Charlotte Eccles, and of course Elizabeth Hightower, who pitched 4 innings of this game. And they get all of them back. And this is a Florida team that is primed with talent for another run in 2022. The reigning regular season SEC champions. First pitch to Humplick is bounced to short, and that is on in time to Gels at first for the out, 6-3. Do have one change in the outfield. Katie Kistler has checked in at right, and that's why Gels, who was in right field, has moved down to first. So some shuffling on the defense for Coach Walton and company. Those are the only 2 changes. For Florida, meanwhile, for South Florida, we will have a pinch hitter. Lydia Castro from the Tampa Bay area, played for the Tampa Mustangs. Learned under the former Olympian and Puerto Rican national team member, Yves Soto Suarez. Coach Erickson likes how she's adapted at catcher and some of the other positions to facilitate kind of a flexible offensive lineup for them. Or I should say a flexible lineup. Also liked the command that she showed in the relationship with the pitching staff as a catcher at times. And here showing up with her bat to try and do some damage. Nobody on for South Florida. Bulls have been 1 hit to this point by Hightower, now Trilicek combined. If Florida holds South Florida to 1 hit, it would be their second of the weekend. They 1-hit Michigan yesterday, nearly no-hit the Wolverines till a single in the 7th broke it up.
Shows you how dominant their pitching staff is to hold Michigan to 1 hit. Now they come and face University of South Florida with 1 hit when both teams have the potential to score a lot of runs.
And this is a South Florida team, by the way, that scored 23 runs over their first 3 games this weekend. Flail a miss for strike 3. Trilicek has her first strikeout of the season, and that will end the 5th frame. We go to the 6th, still Florida 7, USF 9. Another inning, another new pitcher for South Florida. They will bring in Vivian Pond to pitch. It'll be her first innings of work this season. Has been hitting in the cleanup spot for South Florida in every game prior to this one. And, well, now we know why. Is part of the bullpen today and what you could call Susie Allstaff for South Florida, who's pitched the innings today. Bulls have had their fair share of pitchers. This is something Ken Erickson has done in the past, particularly against this Florida team on opening weekend. She is now the 6th different pitcher in as many innings to take the circle for South Florida. And she's got a pretty tall task taking on Adams, Wallace, and Eccles, 1, 2, and 3 in the Florida order.
Where these USF pitchers have kind of fallen short is getting ahead of UF and taking control of the circle, having that dominant presence in the circle.
So when you look at USF's weekend as a whole, going all the way back to night one against Illinois State on Thursday, what are some of the takeaways for this team in week one? This is obviously a bit of a measuring stick week, a bit of an evaluation week for this staff. When you look at this team, what are some of the things you're trying to work on going into next week as Adams pops this into foul ground for the first out?
They really need to strengthen the bullpen. They need to come out, not even the bullpen, they need to strengthen every pitcher on the team to come out and throw strikes. They've been kind of all over the plate this evening. Really, nobody's had a dominant presence in the mound like you see when Quark's out there. When Quark's out there, you have that presence. You don't get that other feel when some of these other pitchers have come out.
So Skylar Wallace is up for Florida. Couple singles and a ribby. Not a bad day for number 17. 2 hops to second, and Piero on to Epperson, 2 down. So a brief cameo by Skylar Wallace will give way to Charlotte Eccles, who, you know, when you see her step up to the plate, she has a really simple swing, Allison, but it's so potent. Why is that?
She just does the basics. She doesn't overthink, overanalyze. She sees the ball, hits the ball. That's why she's so good. She goes up there, has confidence in herself.
Eccles had her first hit of the season earlier today, a 2-run double. Extended the Gator lead in what was a 6-run second inning, and this was a pretty quick frame as Charlotte Eccles is retired on the ground up 2012 by beating this Florida team in the regional, what was 10 years ago now for the South Florida Bulls. And, you know, Ken Erickson has built a very competitive program here at USF, and the goal for this team is the same as it is every year: get to OKC and continue to build the brand. They want to turn the corner and be a factor in the postseason beyond the first few rounds. First pitch swinging 5-3. There's one away. So as quickly as she came into pinch hit, Julia Morocco is retired, the freshman. And they'll turn it over for another pinch hitter, and Divine Davis.
Erickson's just trying to make things happen, put in some hitters, get a fresh look, trying to mix it up. Because Florida's kind of dominated all day today against USF hitters.
Really was his second inning, I should say, that was disastrous for South Florida. Outside of that, it's been kind of a slow defensive day on both ends as his first pitch gets away from Trilicek. And sometimes, you know, that's really the difference in a ball game, is you have one bad frame and that can really bury you. And that's what happened here between USF and Florida. Is the Gators got off to a fast start, and that's been the trend in this series over the years, is that when Florida gets off to a fast start against South Florida, they tend to run away with it. We saw that in the regional final last year when Hightower threw that no-hitter. It was like that on opening weekend when they played a doubleheader on day one of the season, and the first game was a 6-3 battle that was tight going into the 7th, and then Florida ran away with it in the second game because they were able to get a fast start in that one.
If you give Florida anything for free like those, that's what hurt USF in the second inning, is those free passes. You give UF anything for free, they're going to capitalize on it, and that's what they did. They had a huge second inning.
Florida only had 3 hits in that second inning. And this is knocked pretty well into right field. So Divine Davis comes off the bench and cranks one to the outfield. It's the second hit of the day for South Florida, and her first of the season.
And that's a hard job to do. Come off the bench, cold, and just comes in, watches the pitch, and picks out the pitch that she wants, and gets it and drives it in for a hit.
Jordan
Cadlub, who checked in earlier, will come in. Alexis Johns re-enters to pinch run at first. Johns has got some pretty good speed, so look for her to try and steal. For Divine Davis, it's also her first career hit. Wanted to mention. Took 1 AB on Thursday against Illinois State. And that goes off on the first toss to Cadlow. Well, South Florida is pretty good at stealing bases. Alexis Johns second in the American, and steals last season, and Megan Pierre was pretty good at it too. Bulls as a team were among the leaders in stolen bases. Johns is going to go. The throw down to second. Short hops in front of Adams. And Johns is safe and in scoring position for South Florida. The second Bull to get to second base today.
That's textbook softball that you want to do. Get your fast runner on and move her over to second. Watch, she swings, misses, but Johns is able to get safely to second with her speed.
Catalab on 0-2, flares out to short, leaping grab by Reagan Walsh. 2 down. So if you were watching along with us earlier today, you remember at one point we had a weather delay. And, you know, we made a joke that it's rainy now, but I'm sure it'll be sunny by the 6th inning. And that has come to fruition. And as we say that, of course, a few clouds start to reappear. But neither here nor there. We finally got some sunshine here on this Sunday. And Rivera on the first pitch, 2 hops it to second, and Adams well in time on to first to retire the side. So Bulls can't make anything of this single, and we are 6 complete going to the 7th, the final scheduled frame, 7-0 Florida. And for the Gators, Tim Walton got his Florida team up 7-0 on South Florida. 5-time SEC Coach of the Year, trying to get Florida once again back to the Women's College World Series. And he is the one who's orchestrated Florida into the powerhouse that they are today. He was hired in 2006. His first job out at Wichita State, now a member of the American Conference. And, you know, for Florida, Coach Walton, you think back a couple years ago when Jenny Rocha left this staff. It was a huge blow for them, but he has been able to make some great hires in Mike Bosch, the new pitching coach for the Gators, and Eric Thomas, his former teammate, has Amanda Lorenz and Kendall Lindemann on this staff, and has, you know, turned this program into a machine that just every year is a contender regardless of circumstances, and will go down with the best of them and what he's been able to achieve at UF. And go back pretty far. This is Bryn Thomas, by the way, pinch hitting for Florida. Vivian Pond back in for another inning of work. Rolled just wide of third for a foul. It's Amanda Lorenz over at first base, mentioned her. Her and her former teammate Kendall Lindemann both on staff. Lorenz is the volunteer assistant coach. Kendall Lindemann is the student assistant coach. Thomas, roller to short, bit of a bobble. It's going to be close, and she's safe. Bryn Thomas with her first hit of the season.
I like what Pond's doing here. She's getting ahead of the hitters. She gets what she needed done. An infield ground ball, just a little too quick. Thomas down the line and had a little bit of shuffle from her getting the ball out of her glove, and was just able to make it down the line quickly enough to be safe.
Katie Kistler is hitting in place of Sarah Longley after she checked in earlier in the game. This is a chance to get some experience for these Florida hitters. Katie Kistler has mostly seen pinch running duties to this point as a Gator. Did have a hit against Kansas City the other day. And her only other AB so far was a single.
And just going back to talk about Tim Walton, he's such a class act. He came in 2006 and immediately had an impact on UF's program.
Of course, you had to face off against Walton's teams a few times. And I'm sure some pleasant memories, but not always the most pleasant.
No, that's what I'm saying. He came in and made an immediate impact. The pitching staff was tough. The hitters, when I faced them, were so tough. Like, I had to bring my A game to every single batter that I faced.
And, you know, we mentioned the staff, and there's a lot of experience that they've put together. And Amanda Lorenz and Kendall Lindemann, those are some of the 2 best to ever do it. Amanda Lorenz, now a member of Team USA, and, you know, anytime you can have that coaching your hitters, and having her presence in the dugout, the respect that Amanda Lorenz commands in the softball world, I mean, that's paramount. I mean, being able to retain that on your staff and keep that around your dugout, that's huge.
Shows you the type of coach Walton is, to have those players wanting to come back and coach with him.
Payoff here for Katie Kistler. Golfs it through the right side for a base hit. Katie Kistler's 2 for 2 in 2022. It's runner on the corners for the Gators with nobody gone.
And I love how these UF hitters have both come off the bench and come in strong, getting back-to-back hits.
Cheyenne Lindsay will step up with an opportunity for some more Florida runs.
Now batting for the Gators, number 2, Cheyenne Lindsay.
Cheyenne Lindsay, despite an 0 for 2 day, did reach once on a walk and scored a run. Has had a couple nice knocks to center field. Of course, her highlight of the weekend was the difference-making grand slam against Michigan. And, you know, that inning, for anybody who was in the ballpark, the tension had been building the whole game. I mean, it was a pitcher's duel through and through. And you could sense everybody was on the edge of their seat. And Megan Beaumian just left one hanging for Cheyenne Lindsay. It was a no-doubter off of her bat. As a look back at it on Saturday, she smoked this to right center, Allison.
There was no question when it came off the bat that it was gone. I saw that pitch. It looked like it was a curveball, and it just stayed over the middle of the plate. And I bet her eyes were so big when she saw how fat that ball was coming in.
And the grin even bigger when she gave Florida a 4-0 lead over the Wolverines in another classic between those two. Former opponents in the national championship in 2015. It's always a fun weekend here on opening start of the softball season. Get them together. Past 2 Bulls, and that'll play to run. Bryn Thomas touches home, and the Gators are up 8-0. So 3 straight singles in the 7th.
And back-to-back hits in between Piero and Epperson. Literally in the same exact spots. Inside part of the plate, and just hits it where they're not, where those USF players are not.
What does Pond need to do to adjust to stop giving up these singles?
I mean, she's hitting her spots and doing a great job in getting ahead of the hitters. They're not really hitting them too hard. It's just they're hitting them in the spots that USF players are not.
Emily Wilkie's up. She had a single back in the 5th. Was left stranded at first for Florida. There's a lot of expectation on her this season. She's taking over as essentially catcher number 1 this season, at least to this point. And stepping up into that role maybe a little sooner than expected with the departure of Julia Cottrell. But that's sort of the nature of not only college softball, but really sports in general. It's got to be a next man up mentality if you're the Gators. As Wilkie fouls this off again.
And the depth that they have, I mean, he has a whole team of players that he can choose from that's going to equally step in and be just as good.
Well, if there's one thing you can say about the Gators, it's that they bring in the talent. That brand has certainly got a lot of power around the softball world.
I think in every sport at Florida.
Everything's school, right?
Yeah.
It's low and out for ball 3. They do it pretty well here, too, at USF. The baseball team made a super regional last season. Women's basketball was a tournament team. Golf did really well last year. It's low and out for ball 4. Bases loaded. So we just mentioned the grand slam that Cheyenne Lindsay had yesterday. And we'll have another pinch hitter for Florida. After the walk from Emily Wilkie. Gators will send Callie Decker to the plate. Freshman out of Lake Mary, Florida, was a PJ All-American in the Southeast region, was also 7A All-State last season.
For the Gators, number 35, Callie Decker.
This is the first career at bat for Decker, the Lake Mary native. How about this for a first AB? Bases loaded, nobody out. As a hitter, your eyes got to be a little bit wide here. Excited to step up in this opportunity.
Took the words out of my mouth. I'd be so excited right now to step up, knowing I have an opportunity to blow this game up even more.
That'll level it, 1-1. Well, Florida's got this game well in hand. Barring the incredible, should likely walk away with a 4-0 weekend. They'll face 4, 5, and 6 in the order on the other side. It'll be a quick turnaround for Florida. They're going on the road Tuesday to Jacksonville to play 1 of 2. They'll play back again at home on Wednesday. And then they got Duke coming up this weekend in the T-Mobile tournament. That was a very good team out of the ACC last year. That's another conference that's growing very quickly. Florida State's been a staple there for a while, but now you got Duke and Clemson also emerging. As this sport continues to grow across the country, moving eastward. Looking forward at the Florida schedule. Villanova and Louisville also coming up next weekend in that T-Mobile tournament. Of course, that game on Wednesday will be on the SEC Network Plus. You can watch that on the ESPN app, and that weekend tournament only available via radio. Two. Decker bounces it through the right side again for Florida. Has her first career hit and her first career RBI as Kistler crosses home, and Florida extends the lead.
And the third straight hit in that same spot between first and second. Just does a great job coming off the bench and getting a hit.
Gels will re-enter to run for Florida. And a round of applause for Decker. That's one you remember forever, right? First career hit in an orange and blue uniform.
And perfect timing with...
Well, they'll go to Cameron Dolby. We've made our way all the way around to the starter. Number 5 will take the circle. Pinch hit. Kinsey Gels has stepped into pinch hit for Florida. A lot of new faces getting opportunities in this one. The Mississippi State transfer, right-hander for the Gators. And has been a huge factor in the dugout for Florida. She belted her first career home run as a Gator against her former team, Mississippi State, last season and was the difference in the game. That was back on March 19th of a year ago in a 1-0 victory. Also had another home run in that series to give them an early 2-0 lead in the finale. And that hits her on the shoulder. She'll pump the fist, take the hit by pitch, and that'll bring in another run for Florida. And Kinsey Gels is one of those players that her teammates love. Such great energy and hustle. You can tell that everybody really enjoys having her on the team when you talk to people around this program. And, you know, sometimes when you're talking about rosters and the success of a team, it's not just about what you see on the diamond, but sometimes it's those intangibles, that glue on a team can be so important to somebody's success, as Falby's going to re-enter to run here for Gels.
Yeah, you have to have success both on the field and off the field. If the players are not jiving off the field, they're most likely not going to jive on the field. So it's great that they have that camaraderie both on the field and off the field.
So just to reset it for you, Falby's at first, Gels is at second, Wilkie's at third, and the order has turned over to Hannah Adams. Florida has already batted around once today. Adams sends one sky high to left. Florida has one grand slam this weekend. That was against Michigan yesterday. We've mentioned that a couple of times. Grounder to short and is offline, trying to get the runner in second, and Wilkie scores backside. Gators tag on another run.
What a great play by Rivera, though. You see the ball, it was up the middle, diving stop. That kept a couple runs from scoring. Had that have gotten through from Rivera, not only would the runner on third score, but the runner on second would also score.
That'll prompt a meeting in the circle. Ken Erickson's going to come talk to Dolby, who is today's starter. We have basically gone all the way around the bullpen. So no Coric today. Really trying to get the most out of what is on this South Florida staff after Coric. And look, if South Florida is going to be successful and be the team that wins the American, they have to have that experience and those reps beyond Coric. She can't do it alone. We saw that last year in the regional, right, where Florida nearly got upset by South Florida. If it wasn't for maybe the best defensive play of the year, that game is either going to extras or South Florida might walk away with a win.
Yeah.
So, but then you get to the regional final, and Coric just runs out of steam after a no-hitter against Baylor and putting on an excellent performance in the 2 games prior. But you need depth. You've mentioned this before, and South Florida taking one on the chin right now, but maybe it's at the expense of getting those reps and trying to get that bullpen ready for when conference season rolls around and you're trying to secure an automatic bid to the tournament.
Yeah, they have to have depth and come in with a presence. I thought Pond did a great job coming in. It's just the second time around, second inning she came out. She kind of got all over the place, a couple hits through, and then before you know, you have bases loaded with a bunch of Gators on base.
Have Mesimore, the transfer from FGCU, is up pinch hitting here in place of Skylar Wallace. Spent a lot of time as the DP at FGCU. Last year had a couple of doubles and 3 home runs, 13 RBI with the Eagles. He was the team's ace. And that hit Mesimore. So she will trot her way to first. Mesimore brings in Gels. And it's 12-0 Florida. Carousel keeps on a moving for the orange and blue. And what was already a dominant performance has turned into an onslaught of runs for the Gators. Still nobody out. And this just got a lot more intimidating, you could say, with Charlotte Eccles stepping up. Had a 2-run double in this game. Otherwise, this 1 for 4s would have been a slow start to the season for her.
Charlotte Eccles.
Outside corner, strike 1. Gators up to 12 hits now as well, just 2 for South Florida. And as a team, when you lose a game like this, being able to get up and turn around, they got to go play the competition that they have next week across the bridge in St. Pete Clearwater area. You got to kind of mentally dispatch this game, learn what you can, but move on and not let it loom over you after the excitement of winning yesterday against Michigan.
It just shows that the bullpen or the pitching staff needs to go back, work on the basics, throwing strikes, getting ahead. The walks killed USF today.
As a staff, South Florida gave up 8 walks today. They have not had a strikeout from anybody on the team today. 1 wild pitch and a couple of hit-by pitches. So in total, if you only count the walks and the hit-by pitches, that's 10 free passes. Bouncer back to Dolby. They'll take the out at home. Falby is retired. Bases stay loaded, but the Bulls get a much-needed out, and they have officially batted around.
Things have not gone USF way as far as the pitching staff. Things have just kind of compounded. You had walks, back-to-back hits, hit-by pitches. Things that have gone wrong have just completely gone wrong this inning for USF pitching staff.
Bryn Thomas is still in. She started as a pinch hitter in this inning. Eleven of Florida's 12 runs have been scored in the 2nd and 7th inning. And like you said, those free passes have been killer.
Yeah, USF is just not letting their defense work. Free bases, nobody gets to work. Nobody's putting the ball in play.
Only about 49% of their pitches today have been strikes. South Florida has just struggled to find the zone, frankly, and that's something they'll have to improve upon going into next week and down the stretch of the whole season. The good news for South Florida is they have a lot of home games on the front end of their schedule. Straight up in the air to the heavens and falls back down to Rivera for the 2nd out. Well, so now you have a force anywhere if you're South Florida. A chance to just get to the bottom of the 7th and give it your best shot and get out of here. Still going to be a 3-1 weekend, assuming this holds. Feel pretty confident it will.
Next, number 29, Katie Kistler.
And, you know, despite a disappointing finish for the Bulls, you can still take away a lot of positives, as will Florida heading into week 2 of the season. And there's a lot of softball in front of both these teams. I mean, you know this. Teams are not the same week 1 that they are heading into the NCAA tournament. They're going to grow. And, you know, a lot of players and coaches would tell you, you know, it's about your resiliency and your ability to be coached and get better week to week. That's going to ultimately be the difference in how your season turns out.
And that's why you face these tough teams early on in the season, to see what you have, to make changes where you need to. So when conference play does happen, you know where everybody is and know how to use their talents to your advantage.
Not going to miss. That'll be a strike. Katie Kistler is back up at the plate for Florida. She's 2 for 2 so far this season. By the way, just a note, there's a pinch runner at second. That's Mia Bufano. Steers outside, 2-2. Kistler bloops it up on the infield. Piero makes the squeeze, and the side is retired. Gators poured on with 5 runs in the top of the 7th. They have surged in front to a 12-0 lead as we go to the home half of the 7th. Last chance to dance for the Bulls when we come back. Bulls down to their final 3 outs. Gators well in control. 5-run top of the 7th has put this well out of reach, and it will be Vivian Pond leading off, stepping into that 4 spot in place of Josie Foreman. And fouls off the first one. So Gators in control. Take a look at the preseason poll over in the SEC. Alabama was picked to win the league. You have 4 different teams that received a first place vote. This is the coaches poll. Speaks to not only the depth of that conference, but just the quality of play. Bouncer up the middle, and Vivian Pond has South Florida's 3rd hit of the day. And a bit of a silver lining for South Florida and what has been their 4-spot hitter in the prior 3 games this weekend. So she's aboard. Ken Erickson and the Bulls have their eyes set on another American Conference title. Came 2nd last year to Wichita State. And, you know, go back to the SEC, Allison. Alabama, the overwhelming favorite there. What are your thoughts on Montana Fouts? I mean, she is just an outstanding pitcher. What she did last year, carrying Alabama deep into the Women's College World Series. I mean, she's just locked down. It's every time you think you've seen her best, she comes back with something better.
That's why Alabama is so tough. They always have great hitters, great pitchers, and, you know, they know how to get the job done.
Alabama the favorite. These Florida Gators, the co-reigning SEC champions with Arkansas, picked only 2nd behind the Crimson Tide. They've had a long storied rivalry. Epperson, check swing and a miss. They're going to meet again later this season. They'll renew that rivalry. Did a 3-game series in Tuscaloosa, then met in the SEC tournament. Florida is poised for a similar situation to Alabama's. They'll have that 3-game series, and they'll host the SEC tournament in Gainesville this season. Tagged off home plate for another foul. That is one advantage for Florida. They will get the tournament at home this year. They were supposed to host it last year, but because of the COVID-19 pandemic, that pushed it off a year because Alabama didn't get to host that year. So they hosted last year. Florida gets it this year. Riley Trilicek's been pretty good in relief. Gators as a staff still have not allowed runs. This has been a co-effort today in the shutout between Hightower and Trilicek.
Trilicek is just doing a great job coming in, showing her dominance, getting ahead of hitters. Just does a really nice job coming in from the bullpen.
Pinch runner over at first. That is Courtney Waldo, the freshman. We've seen her in that pinch runner spot a couple times this weekend. Payoff to Epperson. Adams fields, tags one, throw on to first, and there's two. Gators turn the double play. Boy, Hannah Adams, there's a reason she was all-conference defensive team. I mean, the talent on this Florida infield is just ridiculous at times. They are so loaded between first and third. And what they've got, returning from last year in Hannah Adams, there's a reason she's an All-American, and she flashed it there with that double play.
And you saw she was positioned perfectly right over by second base. It's like she knew she was going to hit it there because she didn't even have to move. She caught the ball, stepped on second, and threw it over to first for a double play. Just perfectly positioned for that hit.
So 1 out away from a completion in this game. Gators on the verge of a shutout effort. Nobody on, 2 gone for Piero. Piero puts it into play, deep to center field, ranging back, and a great grab to finish the game. The freshman Falvey makes the squeeze, and the Gators are 4-0. A perfect weekend in Tampa for the Orange and Blue. Florida holds South Florida to just 3 hits today, and what a play in center field by the freshman.
What a great play, great hit, but she just runs all the way back and sticks her glove up at the last moment and catches the ball.
Florida moves to 4-0. South Florida drops to 3-1. A dominant performance for the Gators. They will meet later on this season. But in the first meeting, it's Hightower who gets the win. Pepping is assigned the loss as she came in to pitch for